MSB here, and it's time for a special episode. Cryptozoic have released a special card list, and while there are still some cards that appear to be missing from the list, I'm going to take a look at each of the different shards. So, let's get started. Starting with artifacts, it's the Cosmic Totem. This one-cost card can be included in any sideboard, and by paying one resource and voiding the artifact, you can shuffle a target champion's graveyard into the champion's deck. This card can be very effective in the metagame, as if the opponent's deck is either a milling deck, you would target your own graveyard and place that into your deck in order to shut that strategy down. Or, if the opposing champion has a reanimation deck, where they continually pull cards from their graveyard, you can shuffle their graveyard into their deck, shutting that down as well. Moving on to blood, there's the Malice Demon. This 7-cost, 8-attack, 8-defense card with Flight and Crush is quite an impressive fatty. I've always had a very soft spot in my heart for any sort of massive troops. Having an 8-8 with Flight and Crush would ensure your opponent wouldn't be staying alive much longer. Sure, it's another high-cost card, which is why it's not necessarily blowing my mind, but it is one that I'll enjoy trying to work into a deck. Next up is Diamond. For 4 resources, you get a Frost Wizard, which is a 4-attack, 3 defense, and when this troop attacks, you choose a target troop you control. The next time that troop would be dealt damage this game, you prevent it. I really like the options this card provides, as when this troop attacks, it can either target itself in order to prevent any lethal damage from a block, or you can target another troop for a long-term strategy, so that way it's protected in the future, and can prevent Ruby decks from taking out any 2-defense troop that also provides helpful abilities. Next up we have Ruby, and there's Heat Wave. For 2 cost, you deal 2 damage to each troop. This is a fantastic low-cost version of the Ash Harpy, and can really help deal with any sort of swarm decks that you might face. Oh, and more on the Ash Harpy later. Moving on to Sapphire, we have the Eldritch Dream. For 4 cost, you get a 3-attack, 3-defense troop that is a socketable major gem, and in addition, unbelievably, this troop can't be blocked. This leads to some amazing gem combinations. You can either put in the Wild Major Gem that gives it a +1/+1 every time it exhausts. You can put in a Blood Major Gem, which gives it Rage 2, and since it can't be blocked, you can just attack with impunity and ramp this up very quickly. Or you could put in the Ruby Major Gem, which destroys a resource every time this card deals damage to an opposing champion. This can lead to some amazing shutdown, as you quickly whittle away at the opponent's resources, preventing them from playing any cards moving forward. I definitely expect this card to get some alterations before Hex goes live. Last up it's Wild, and I've chosen the Winds of Change. For 3 cost, you get a basic action which destroys all constants, and then you gain 2 health for each constant destroyed that way. This is another of those cards that you'd include in a sideboard, dependent on the metagame. Being able to destroy all constants for 3 cost and a health gain can be great at disabling the utility your opponent has included in their deck. Now we'll move on to some of the more poignant nerfs. First, there's the Rotcaster, which appears to be the new version of Zarlox the Broodlord, except this card is a 5 casting cost and it's a 3-attack and 2 defense, where Zarlox was a 4 cost, 2 attack, and 4 defense. Both troops destroy a target opposing troop with cost 3 or less, but the stats and the cost were much better on Zarlox. Next up is the Phoenix Guard Aeronaut. This card had a major redesign, as it used to prevent either your opponent from attacking if they played a card, or from playing a card if they attacked. Now it's just an expensive card that has a whole bunch of keywords and some pretty average attack and defense values. Last is the Ash Harpy. I mentioned it during Heat Wave, but this card really got the shaft. Changing from a recurring card that also dealt 2 damage to all troops without flight into a simple 0-attack 3-defense flyer with Rage 4 is a major shift. Thank you for watching. Cryptozoic have said that they'll provide us an update tomorrow with the release status of the alpha, so be sure to keep an eye on my channel, as I'll be providing in-depth coverage as soon as the alpha releases. As always, I'm MSB, wishing you good games and good times.